the Sprite-Woman. Have you ever heard of a ship's sprite? That is a type of troll that loves to make its home on sailing ships. On really beautiful large wooden sailing ships, that is very important, because the sprite makes sure that the ship is always watertight and that no water can get in anywhere. That is why in some areas sailors also call him the caulker. Caulking a ship's hull means filling and sealing the cracks with pitch, a kind of tar, and oakum, a kind of wool made from hemp or jute. As you can see, the sprite had an important job to do as the ship's guardian, even if he sometimes played pranks on the sailors out of boredom. But that was just how it was in the days of the great sailing ships. Now, it is quite clear that if there was a sprite man, there must also have been a sprite woman. I am sure you will agree with me on this logical conclusion. And indeed, there was once a very famous sprite woman who was so well known that to this day, all ships are given a girl's name in her honor. Pay attention, and you will not find a single ship in the whole world named Charles or Frederick. And today, I want to tell you the story of how this sprite woman became so famous. Many, many years ago, there was a merchant ship, a proud trading vessel, which, after weathering a terrible stormy night, dropped anchor in Horseshoe Bay. It took several days for the sailors to repair all the damage caused by the storm on the high seas in the safe harbor. After all the work on and below deck, the captain gave them 10 days shore leave. Deep down in the belly of the ship, a small carpenter's workshop had been set up, as was customary on large sailing ships at the time. This was so that a carpenter could repair anything that might break during a months-long voyage. For example, when the captain angrily banged his fist on the table and broke the tabletop in two, or when deck planks had to be replaced because a heavy tool or a piece of rigging had crashed down from the lofty heights of the highest mast. Sometimes something had to be repaired on the rudder or hull while underway, so there was always something for the carpenter to do. And where a carpenter works, there are wood shavings and lots of sawdust, which in turn was pure paradise for a real ship's sprite. So the sprite had secretly settled down in the carpentry workshop with his wife, and the two led a happy life. When they had dropped anchor in Horseshoe Bay and everyone was on shore leave, the sprite said to his wife, "Wife, I'm going ashore. My shag is all gone and I want to get some more quickly." Shag, that is what the sprite called his pipe tobacco. With that, he disappeared ashore so that he could soon smoke his pipe again. Someone had not been paying close attention, but it just so happened that not only was the sprite not on board, but the sailors were also gone, as they were on shore leave. The captain had also gone ashore briefly, even though he did not smoke a pipe at all, but perhaps he wanted to get something else. Anyway, the ship was completely deserted, except for the sprite woman down in the ship's carpentry workshop. Actually, there always has to be a guard on board, a sailor, or the captain or one of his officers, so that the ship is not left unattended in the harbor. Apparently, no one had noticed that there was not a soul left on the sailing ship. Well, that is why disaster struck, because pirates secretly sneaked on board, cut the mooring lines, and stole the entire ship. When the captain returned to the harbor from his shopping trip, all he could see on the horizon were the white sails of his proud ship. An entire merchant ship had fallen victim to a cunning band of pirates. "Good heavens and 3 times damn it," grumbled the sprite as he stood smoking on the pier and saw that the beautiful ship was no longer there. "I should not have left the ship," grumbled the sprite. For it is an old sailor's wisdom that when the sprite leaves the ship, something monstrous will happen to it. The sprite's wife was astonished when she woke up after a short nap and noticed the gentle rocking of the ship in the swell. This was accompanied by the sound of bawdy sea shanties sung by the pirates who were celebrating their successful raid. Even for pirates, it was not often that a large sailing ship fell into their hands so easily. Usually, they attacked ships on the high seas, captured them, and stole their cargo. In most cases, the captured ships were wrecked or set on fire because pirates naturally used their cannons. But this time, they had pulled off a daring feat. They simply sneaked on board, untied the ropes, set sail, and made off. The sprite's wife thought to herself, "Something is not right here." And she was right. And when she realized that her husband was also missing, she became concerned, because the sprite knew what to do in every situation. So she had to think carefully about what to do, and to do that, she had to leave the carpentry workshop and go on deck to get a clear overview of the situation. After all, she had been sailing on ships like this with her husband for years and had learned a lot. She too would come up with something to right the wrong that had been done to the ship. Sneaking onto the deck, she realized that she was dealing with 12 pirates who did not seem to be particularly concerned with hygiene. No, they were also nasty fellows who were not to be trifled with. So extreme caution was called for. This band of pirates wanted to sail to Casablanca, she had heard from their conversations. So the Sprite-Woman thought it was important to let her husband know where they were going. She took an empty rum bottle and turned it into a message in a bottle. "Hubby, the pirates are sailing to Casablanca." She wrote on a piece of paper, carefully sealed the bottle with a cork and some pitch, opened the porthole and threw it overboard. She had no doubt that her husband would soon receive the message, because otherwise no one would send a message in a bottle on the high seas. Of course, there were no radios or even telephones at that time. The Sprite-Woman could sneak around the ship unseen. That was the peculiarity of her kind, and she had learned that from her husband. Careful, quiet, quick as a shadow. "Now that hubby will soon know, I want to take a look around," she thought to herself, and set out to leave the carpentry shop. Unrecognized, she slipped into the crew's quarters, looked into the holes deep inside the ship's hull, and even checked the bilge to see if everything was in order. She did not find a leak that needed urgent caulking. That was good, because that was the actual job of the sprites, but then, suddenly, she had to prick up her ears. Was there not a whimpering sound? Wondered the Sprite-Woman, and she went deeper into a dark storage room far forward in the bow. Sure enough, now she could see what it was. During their brazen raid in the harbor, the pirates had not only stolen the ship, but they had also brought a very special cargo on board. 4 children were chained and blindfolded in the stuffy hold. Good heavens, thought the Sprite-Woman. What is going on with these children? Quick as lightning and quiet as a shadow, she scurried upstairs to the captain's cabin, hoping to find out more about what the pirates had in store for the 4 poor children. And indeed, the pirate captain was talking to one of his comrades. "When we go ashore in Casablanca, they will bring us a nice chunk of money. You really want to sell the king's children as slaves in Africa? The sooner we get rid of the brood, the better. Until then, they will stay below deck, but make sure they get water and bread. You cannot sell them if they are starving." "Aye, aye, sir," said the mate, and left the captain's cabin. Immediately afterwards, the Sprite-Woman disappeared again. She had heard everything, and now had to think urgently about what to do. She always thought best when she buried herself deep in the wood shavings of the carpentry workshop, and nothing from outside reached her. Then she could think clearly. So they have captured 4 royal children from somewhere and now want to sell the poor souls as slaves in the next port. Well, they have not reckoned with the Sprite-Woman. Let's see, thought she. The pirates are sailing against the wind to Casablanca. The ship is heavily laden and is only making slow progress. We are now about 5 hours away from Horseshoe Bay. I must come up with a plan. She thought, and then came up with a monstrous plan. First, she wanted to take a look at the small dinghy that the large merchant ship was leisurely towing behind it. The Sprite-Woman clambered along the rope until she reached the small lifeboat. That should work. Although there are 2 or 3 places I need to caulk to make it watertight. She had brought pitch and hemp with her and quickly sealed the damaged areas. That will do. Now I just need a sail and some provisions. She shimmied back to the ship, deftly climbed up the stern, and disappeared into the sail locker, where the large ship kept its sails. This one should do, she said, taking a triangle of sailcloth, stuffing it into a duffel bag, and then sneaking into the galley. There was plenty of ship's biscuits here, and she also found a few bottles of drinking water. Back at the dinghy, she stowed everything away neatly. Now I have to reveal myself to the children. Well, this should be interesting. What would the children say when they saw and heard the Sprite-Woman? After all, she was barely dwarf-sized, had an uncombed mane of wild hair, green teeth, and smelled strongly of birch resin. Nothing could be done. The children would have to listen to her. So far they had been blindfolded, so perhaps she could warn them in advance. The Sprite-Woman sighed deeply, then made her way to the bow of the ship, where the children were chained. "Shh, children," she whispered softly. "Listen, I want to help you." "Who are you?" asked one of the boys. There were 2 boys and 2 girls who had been captured. "Well, how can I put this? I am not a fairy godmother, nor am I a dwarf woman, even though I look a little like one, at least in terms of size. But please, do not be afraid. We do not have much time, and I want to save you from the pirates." "Yes, but who are you then?" "Children, I am the wife of the sprite who protects this ship, but my husband went ashore at Horseshoe Bay to buy tobacco. Before he could return, the pirates stole this ship and chained you here. I did not wake up until we were already on the high seas." "The sprite's wife?" The boy was astonished. "Yes, but please, I have to remove your blindfold so that we can escape together. Please do not scream in fright. I do not look very much like a human child. Some people cannot see me at all. Most of the time, we perform our duties on ships completely unrecognized. But this time, I have to reveal myself to you, otherwise we will not be able to escape. I have prepared a dinghy, so are you ready?" "Anything is better than being chained up here," the children agreed. The Sprite-Woman had brought tools from the carpentry workshop and quickly freed the children from the chains that had held them. "Now please take off your blindfolds. Do not be frightened and be very quiet. We have a long way to go through the whole ship to the stern. From there, we have to climb down a rope to the dinghy. It is quite easy, and I have already done it twice today." Even without their blindfolds, the children could hardly see anything in the dark hole. But even when it got a little lighter in the next room, they were brave, did not scream, and followed the Sprite-Woman. "We have to go through the Bilge, otherwise one of the pirates might surprise us." The Bilge was a narrow space deep down in the hull of the ship. It was low, damp, and stretched from bow to stern without any further obstacles. Their feet got wet because all kinds of water and moisture collected here. But soon they reached the spot where they could reach the rope connecting the ship and the dinghy. "This is how we will do it," said the Sprite-Woman. "I have a rope for each of you, which I will tie around your hips, and I will tie the other end securely to the rope. And then you will slide into the dinghy. I will be the first to climb into the dinghy, so I can catch you there. Please do not be afraid. The knots are real sailors' knots, and they will not slip easily. The youngest first. Agreed?" The children looked at each other, nodded, and actually had no choice, unless they wanted to go back to the chains. The Sprite-Woman quickly tied the children to the rope of the dinghy, as described, climbed down herself and signaled to the children to slide down one by one. First came a little boy who cried a little because he was afraid of falling into the sea, but he was brave and very quiet. Then came the little girl, then the older girl, and finally the older boy. "Please sit still. I have to untie the rope from the ship, and then we will set sail, and you will see how quickly we will get back." She cut the rope with a very sharp knife, and they were free. Hopefully the pirates would not notice for quite a while. If they were at least 100 meters away from the ship, they would be safe, because no musket could shoot that far. But everything remained quiet as the nimble little dinghy moved away. Now the Sprite-Woman set the sail she had brought with her, and the journey began with a wonderful tailwind. "Here, I have stashed some ship's biscuits, a few sausages, and some drinking water. We will not be short of anything." A girl named Valerie looked at the Sprite-Woman for a long time. "Your teeth are completely green." "Yes, you see, that is because we sprites mainly eat seaweed. If we had a fire on board, I could cook you a delicious seaweed soup, but of course that is not possible here." "Yuck, seaweed soup," laughed the children. And it was good to see them laughing again. The pirate ship was now far away from them, and the distance was growing by the minute. Apparently, no one had noticed that the captured children were no longer there. In the late afternoon, the small lifeboat arrived safely back at Horseshoe Bay with the children. What joy there was! The worried parents of the royal children came and took their boys and girls back into their arms. The sprite, who had been sitting on a bollard with the message in a bottle in his hand the whole time, took his wife by the hand. "Wife, you did well. I have already informed our captain that the pirates are on their way to Casablanca. He has sent a message by carrier pigeon to the soldiers of the merchant navy there, and they will probably intercept the pirates in a few days. If all goes well, we will all be back on our ship in 10 days. A tall man approached the sprite and his wife. It was indeed the captain. "We are greatly indebted to you. Thanks to you, we will be able to save our ship, and perhaps even the entire cargo. The king and queen are especially grateful to you, and in your honor, all ships in the entire kingdom will henceforth be given female first names." "That is too much of an honor," said the Sprite-Woman, curtsying slightly and rejoicing that everything had turned out so well. All the countries of the world followed the example of the small kingdom, and from that day on, named their ships and boats only with female first names. The soldiers arrested the pirates in Casablanca and put them in prison. The merchant ship was sailed back, and the captain was able to take possession of his ship again. The sprite and his wife disappeared back into the wood shavings of the ship's carpenter's workshop, and the merchant ship resumed its interrupted course. If you ever take a trip on a beautiful ship, ask if there is a ship's carpenter's workshop. Who knows, maybe you will meet the sprite or his wife there.